I'm a soybean breeder primarily, and so I have a pretty conventional or typical breeding pipeline to develop new varieties of soybean that are adapted to the North Central region. But in so doing, I'm also doing research on how to breed soybeans and on the sort of quantitative properties of soybean agronomic performance. I direct the Soybean Center, which is virtual, and right now there are several soybean centers at different, at the other land grants. We're trying to put together coordinated projects across a regional scale and take advantage of some of the things that all the land grants offer, but also avoid redundancies to bring, better quality, higher level projects to the farmers, and then also try to leverage the farmer investment in soybean research. There's always new technology and there's new information. So for example, genomic information always gets cheaper and cheaper and more abundant. So how do we use the genomic information to select the highest yielding soybeans? The other new source of information is the drones and the image-based phenotypes. So now we can get a lot of information when we used to have almost no data. I made some decisions early on to focus on robust technology that's easy to use, primarily RGB imagery from cheap drones, and that's allowed me to really innovate on the genetics of longitudinal traits in crops and how to actually use the traits instead of spending all my time figuring out how to even collect the data. The seed industry definitely has changed the way they breed soybeans as a result of my work. Several years ago now, I published a paper on measuring the easiest thing we could with RGB imagery and drones, which was canopy coverage, and demonstrated how it might be used to help predict yield. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Corteva now uses the same metric to adjust all of their yield trial data in soybean. So I like to think of phenomics as being able to quantify in a high throughput way growth and development of crops, and then how to do that and what are the applications. The Agronomy Farm is a fantastic resource for our department, and it generates really, really high quality agronomic data. So when I plant generally 10 to 20,000 plots of soybeans for different objectives every year. The stakeholders, I would say, are primarily the seed industry. So the people who are selling seeds to farmers would use my information and they hire my students. But farmers are certainly also my stakeholders because they fund the work, the United Soybean Board, Indiana Soybean Alliance, and other commodity funding. I would say the impact of my breeding pipeline per se may be conventional soybean acres in the North Central region, which is about 5 million acres of soy, in the North Central region. 5 million acres is a relatively small market for the likes of a large seed company. And so it's definitely an area where a breeding program that has a smaller scale like mine in the public sector can have an impact and compete. I wish that people understood how high-tech crops are, right? That a field of soybeans or a field of corn, when you drive by that there have been thousands of hours of scientist effort and what you might consider high-tech data went into selecting and developing that variety that the farmer bought. It's just the level of technology that's present in agriculture is not always visible, particularly when we talk about crop improvement, where the basis of what we're doing is primarily the plants, but we use a lot of data